welcome back for the panel. My name's Ross McKillop. I've been doing this for a number of years now. This is always one of my most favourite parts of the conference, is just poking questions at the people who've been our keynote and lock note speakers. So this year we've got Mike and Michelle, who were our main speakers at either end of the day. I will get you guys to do a brief intro of yourself. Well, Mike, you just did it, so that's fine. But we've also got Professor Kate Brooks from Curtin University. She's the head of the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer and Mathematical Sciences, but you can give yourself a brief intro. And then we've got Hamish down the end. You guys know who Hamish is. Yeah, right. Kate, actually, could you give us a brief intro of yourself? Everyone else on stage has been up here quite a bit already today, but you have not. So.
Well, hi everyone, it's great to see the room here full and still with energy at the end of a busy week, so it's great to be here, and I can see a few familiar faces from Curtin, so that's great. So my name's Kate Brooks and I head up the School of Electrical Engineering, Computing and Mathematical Sciences at Curtin University. It's an incredible role and definitely one that I'm really proud of, and a massive responsibility in making sure that we are training the next generation of everything to do with computing and technology. So it's incredibly a great moment to be speaking to you, and that's why we are so proud to be sponsoring this event for the second time in a row, I think. Full disclosure, Hamish is on our advisory board. And you can imagine how entertaining and thought-provoking those advisory board meetings are, and that's exactly why we have Hamish on the board, to really challenge us to make sure we are thinking continually about, contemporary curriculum and keeping up with industry trends. So it's fantastic to be connected today, and I look forward to a good panel discussion.
Thanks for that. I do think having Hamish involved does make thinking about anything challenging. So we don't want to spend too much time talking about artificial intelligence and Gen AI, but it has been a pretty big topic today. There was several talks about AI coding assistants and other generative AI things. So just wanted to throw out to the panel in general. I do think coding assistants are great. We're seeing plenty of value in that. There's a lot of statistics about improved efficiency. Has anyone seen anyone do anything useful with Gen AI other than coding assistants?
Studio Ghibli.
Define the value. We're going to be data-driven.
Does anyone want to go first? Oh, okay. I will go first then. I think it's interesting to see where people are actually using generative AI. And I think the real value from it comes not from uploading your images and getting Studio Ghibli style or inspired by images back, but I think it's really about getting over that starting hurdle. I had a few people come and talk to me today after my keynote and said, I really like the fact that AI doesn't just, go off and do all my jobs and provide me all this fantastic code or provide me with really good responses, right? What it really does, and where I think a lot of the gold lies, is getting over that writer's block or that coder's block, or giving you something to actually start with. Because so many of us in the room will sit down to do something and you're staring at a blank page if you're a writer, you're staring at a blank VS Code screen if you're a developer, you're staring at a blank canvas if you're an artist, and you're thinking, how do I start? Right? And there's lots of people in the room nodding, so lots of us have felt like this before. But with generative AI, by providing even a single piece of advice or a single prompt, we're able to get something to get us started. And in that way, it kind of triggers our thought. And we know that when we get in the flow, all our own ideas come from that. But I think it really gets us over that starting block, so we don't have to spend 3-4 hours sitting there flipping the pen in our hands, twiddling our fingers on the keyboards, and we can actually get started. For me, that's where the real gold actually is for generative AI.
I was gonna say, for my sins, I'm an owner of a marketing company, and I'm looking down at Simon, and he's laughing his head off probably. But they've actually been doing some interesting stuff with Gen AI because it's very content driven and it, marketing agency, that type of stuff. So they've definitely seen a benefit to it. I still question a lot of other benefits though. I think
as a marketer, did you see the KFC ad?
I'm not a marketer.
Well, okay. Did anyone see the KFC ad that was out recently? Completely, a couple of people in the background, completely generated by AI, from the idea to the images that were used to the full video was created. And I had one of my guys from the TV team, we have a whole TV team at SSW, and they're like, oh, well, there goes my job. I just thought this was taking all our developers' jobs and now it's taking mine too. But it isn't. It's actually pretty good. Like when we had Sora release its brand new model, I think it was late last year. From that to where we've come today, again, night and day. I think that's why we're still kind of going, oh, have we seen anything actually useful yet? Have we seen this yet? It's changing so quickly that no one's really come with a really, this is the best use of AI, because there's so many of them out there and there's so many different uses of it. And it is hard now. It is getting harder and harder to work out what actually is generated by AI too. So now someone's building an AI to detect whether something's been built by AI, right? And so we're going to get in this meta loop of the AI to do that, and then someone else is going to build another AI to hack that, and we're going to get stuck in this AI loop, and then we're all going to be sitting there as people just watching all these AIs fight one another and go, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
It's definitely possible. So one thing you mentioned in your talk this morning was kind of an anecdote about a startup founder or CEO who had let go of a developer that wasn't as efficient as his colleagues. They were all using AI coding assistants and he wasn't, and they were producing features and building things faster. So my question is actually for Kate, which is, we're seeing this crazy fast adoption of new technologies that we're not teaching students about currently. And universities have a little bit of a reputation of moving a little bit slowly in terms of adapting. How does a university like Curtin take that into consideration in terms of planning what they're teaching to prepare engineers and developers for that workforce?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And this is a tough gig, and AI is the new thing, but we've seen other, technologies come on the stage, and I can talk a little bit about cyber, how we grappled with that. But I think on AI, enterprises like a university, in my mind, they've got three challenges. One is the university as an enterprise itself. So any massive company is grappling with how their employees are using AI, and what's the data privacy, what are those structures that the enterprise has to put in place, so that as a staff member's, trying to tweak their email before they send it out, it's not sharing everything about any private information. So as a university, like any business, big or small, we're grappling with how we manage the thousands of our staff and what platforms should we be directing them on, what should we be purchasing in terms of, free ChatGPT or not. So that's a challenge. The other pillar is in the teaching. So how do we embrace AI in our assessments? How do we use it and not prohibit it? And how do we figure out how to assess an essay or an assignment that is using that tool? So that's a work in progress there. And that has an element of more and more we're moving into in our learning environment to sort of bespoke learning. We have students with lots of different needs, especially in a computing where you have many different personality types, learning styles, and not everyone wants a bog standard response. So we are exploring how to embed AI into curriculum in terms of assessment, chatbots that can help identify a student perhaps that's at risk early on in their unit, to know if they're at risk of failing. So that's been grappled with. But again, that's been grappled with in the complexity of the enterprise going, ooh, we're not sure if you can use that tool, that's a little bit scary. And then the third is research. So how do we do research on AI? How do we stay ahead of what is being AI is being utilised for? And then also, how do our researchers adapt AI into their research? So recently there was floating around on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, I think Nature had published a paper that had been completely generated by AI. So they had thought up the topic, researched it, and published the paper, and it was referenced. So,
was it good?
I don't know. I mean, it was published. I don't know if that's a metric of good or not. But the point is how, we've got this incredible, complex, multifaceted approach to AI in all different ways. And I'll come back to, I think Jeff Bussias said, it's not about what we can do with AI, it's about thinking about what is not going to change. That's how so I think as a university, we need to be assuming everything is going to be impacted by AI, everything we do. But what is it that is fundamentally not going to change? And in the case of Amazon, it's people want to buy cheap products that fast delivery. And so I think as a university, we're having to come back to our core of what is it that fundamentally is not going to be, that is going to continue in this AI world.
I think that is really interesting. I'll just say one point. I come from Melbourne University. I went to Newman College, so they were always quoting Cardinal Newman. And he comes back to the idea of a university. So what is a university? And his idea of a university is a place for knowledge and sharing and learning. So if you're continuously coming back to that, then you're able to tackle some of these as well, yeah.
I guess the eye-opener for me coming in as an idiot that doesn't know anything into that environment was
You're
just
not
how
an
many
idiot.
different stakeholders
You're using AI.
within the university exist. So, everyone's got a different motivation. And I think that, for me, I was like, shit, your job is pretty hard. Because not everyone's there just to learn. There's people there for lots of different research, whether it be, learn, research, other reasons.
Yep, and I alluded to...
Smoke dope.
I alluded to, as I said, it's a great meeting on our Industry Advice Board. What I alluded to was cyber, and I think there's some learnings there. So, when we introduced teaching cyber into our curriculum some years ago, that was where we're really challenging that curriculum and research versus the enterprise holding us back. So we were having students who had to hack as part of an assessment. Well, Curtin doesn't let you do that sort of behaviour. That's illegal, and we don't have providers who support hacking and penetration testing. And so how do you have that activity where you've got to teach someone how to hack when they're not allowed to hack? And so this is the challenge with these new technologies, is often the enterprise has these rules that are holding the learning and the innovation and the research back, because we have to protect the sort of systems. And so there's always a tension there, I think. And we'll work around that, but it comes back to making sure everyone's reminding everyone of what the core business is. And that's always a challenge when there's multifaceted departments and support functions across a big enterprise that all sit with their core need.
And I know I'm not the moderator here, but one of the things I always want to know about, and because I got someone here, is I think one of your hardest things that you have to tackle is university curriculum, because that's usually set 6 months, 12 months, however many months prior.
Years.
How do you deal with stuff like AI when it changed last Friday and will probably change again sometime this? How do you work with those sort of things in curriculum?
Yeah, and look, I'm definitely, we've got Alan in the front row who's living the dream of working through our curriculum assessment that happens every 5 years.
I don't envy you.
And this is the month that he's really feeling that. Look, we had a good discussion about this at our meeting the other week. The external accreditation of a course by, say, the Australian Computer Society or Engineers Australia, what that tends to focus on is making sure we have the processes in place to ensure fair assessment, fair industry engagement, fair kind of curriculum design, so that we're giving the students a skill set that doubles down on some deep knowledge but giving them a broader thing. So So it's not so specific on have you got AI in your curriculum. It's looking at it holistically and making sure those general principles of what's needed as an IT or computing professional. And that doesn't change too much. So I actually think that doesn't hold us back. I think what stifles the speed is the university itself. So having those processes internally where to change anything, you've got to go through a process of academic board, and that can be 3 months, that can be 6 months. You've got that tension of pedagogical student, experience versus let's just go and do it. Do we really need to, build out that pedagogical piece first? So for me, that they're actually the hardest parts, and that's the crazy thing is they're the bits we can solve. Like the external stuff is harder. But I'm sure if you swept around and asked, especially Alan, maybe later, and hear those war stories, he will share some of that for you. So it's a challenge, but I don't think it's impossible. And I think it's like any enterprise, it's about getting people to move and be inspired to do things differently.
Thank you for answering my question. I'll pass back to the moderator now.
No, thank you for doing my job. That's great. Sort of on that topic, we're talking about, technology moving really fast and people adapting and learning new things very, very quickly. Mike, kind of a question for you actually, because knowing a little bit about some of the customers that you're probably working with, how do you, and you talked about building rapport and like building relationships with customers, and how do you go about moving fast and like, kind of breaking things with customers that aren't really used to it?
Yeah, you've got to be, there's no simple answer to that. You've got to be really transparent to make sure that people understand what the development journey is going to look like. And we're in the middle of copping a hiding because I thought I'd communicated this well with someone and I didn't, where I said, here's my estimate and here's the hourly rate. And the estimate is an estimate and the hourly rate is a real number. And once we burnt through the estimated budget, they got really sad and started disputing payments. So that really sucks. So you have to be very clear, and it's a bit of a dance because people are saying yes to something because you're going to deliver it in a certain time frame, certain budget, and you can only be, all you can do is be honest, and that includes being honest about saying, well, here's all of our cost and timeline assumptions, but let's also add some fat on because reality is going to get in the way.
Mike, are you sure you're not a developer? Because that sounds like, they're really bad at estimating. It sounds like maybe you are too. Is that? Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, I'm like, we have to laugh, otherwise we cry. Yeah.
And so you're, obviously when you're estimating that way and you're saying, this is our time estimate and this is how much it's going to cost per hour that we work on this, obviously you want to kind of go as fast as possible, right? Yep. How do you trade off between kind of keeping that customer happy and going as fast as you can and delivering with quality? I mean, you guys are engineering like physical products with like high voltage electronics and things like that, right? There's a degree of engineering that needs to happen. Yeah,
you need to be really confident that the people that you're leaning on your team for the first principles insights around, is there enough isolation between those electrical things, or can that bearing do its job? Those fundamental first principles, you're really counting on, you're really leaning on your team. You're really leaning on them to tell you if they find themselves out of their depth. You're just exposed there. And so if you don't feel like you can trust that team, then the degree to which you can be confident with what you're telling an external party is the degree to which you're confident in your internal team. And we focus on problems that are big enough and unserved enough that there's a bit of flex in the budget, hopefully, if we take a little bit longer to deliver the first hybrid haul truck, I want to say everyone will understand, and we'll have, it'll be awkward. But if you're, a scenario where you've, out of the kindness of your heart, lent me a $4 million haul truck for us to modify it, and if I say to you, can we take an extra 3 months because I don't want to break your truck? There's some wiggle room there. Yeah.
I think it's really about maintaining that really good communication with people. There's going to be times where you underestimate or overestimate on a development project, a physical project, and by continuously communicating with people, they know that when you come to them with an ask, we need an extra 3 months, we need an extra $100,000. They know that you've thought about all the other different possibilities and ways you could go about this, and they trust in you and will more than likely sign off on that as well. So I think building that relationship and maintaining that throughout is really, really important.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the core reason why that customer is sad with us is I ignored invoicing them for 2 months.
I was going to say,
Right,
it's usually people don't get annoyed. Well, sometimes they do, but they more often than not don't get annoyed because something didn't happen. They get annoyed that you didn't tell them about it, that something happened. And people know that we're people, that we're not AIs that are flawless. I mean, AIs aren't flawless, but they know that we've got things that happen, right? That things do go wrong. And so more often than not, people are understanding. And if they're not the kind of people you want to work with anyway.
Why are you looking at me? I'm not saying anything.
It's just thinking about the people
Stop
that I have to work with sometimes.
The magic words, Mike. Fixed price, variable scope.
Tell us more about that, Hamish.
No.
I don't know if we'll get through all these drinks in time.
Hang on.
We might run out.
Thank you.
At the risk of changing the topic entirely and
please
losing a
do.
train of thought, Hamish, I wanted to ask you something. As someone who, you hire a lot of developers. You're running a business, building things. Is anything changing with the way people are using different technologies now that you look for talent?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think we've always looked for people that are learners. Like the sort of people that do well in MacRock are generally people that want to learn, whether they're early career and they just want to accelerate and learn some interesting stuff, or they're tired of working in a large enterprise and they just want to ship stuff, or that kind of thing. And that can be applied to AI or any other space, I think. Now I'm a bit old school in the sense that I'm kind of going back to, I really want our developers to understand underlying principles. And maybe I've been kind of hammering that at Curtin as well and saying, if you're going to hire a cybersecurity engineer, well, I really want them to understand networking. I really want them to understand the fundamentals about software design and architecture. And if they can't actually write code, well, fuck off. Honestly, I don't think, personally, I'm not going to ask.
Oh, look, people are leaving the room as you said.
Sorry. Lee, I didn't mean you, mate.
Lee, come back.
Oops.
I was like, it was very good
I told you
timing.
not to ask me any more questions.
That's it. It's a good point. We do discuss that quite a bit, and this is always a challenge coming back to AI and how do we keep up with contemporary curriculum. And I think one of the approaches that, coming back to the purpose of a university, is we've got to provide those foundations, and they change on a much slower pace. So if we think about our bachelor or our specialisations in cyber, it's still a bachelor of computing. It's not a bachelor of cyber. So we still speak to those fundamental units and that knowledge of coding, and that then we scaffold on cyber units that are more contemporary on the top, and that's sort of how we've approached AI as well.
Yeah, I think it makes me feel old saying this, but having those fundamentals and being able to apply them to the new space, there's a lot of abstraction happening now in the world, so whether it's Lambda or whatever, but actually understanding what's maybe going on under the hood. And, maybe we don't need everyone that knows that, and we're happy with some vibe coders. It's fine. I'm all for it. But, if we really want to understand what's going wrong and we're working in some interesting spaces, we might need to understand what is happening under the hood. That's all I'm saying. Really.
Did you just say vibe coder?
Yeah, vibe coding.
You haven't heard of
the
vibe?
future, man.
Completely unfamiliar with.
Do you want to explain vibe coding?
It's like
for
flow
our people
gramming.
who
I don't
don't
know. Vibe coding it's the vibe, man. Like, it's like Bravo. It's
He totally gets it now.
Yeah, then I am a developer.
Yeah. You should hire him.
I mean, well, everyone knows the definition of vibe coding, right? It's you're using AI to write your code. And I think there's going to be some
a little bit
paradox.
more to it than that, but
I don't know, whatever. Again, don't ask me questions. I don't know what I'm
Hamish
doing
is a vibe panelist.
You're just sitting here vibing away, not really being a panelist. You're just vibing it out.
I can't help thinking of the just to sort of change it to another ridiculous topic. I can't
Please do.
help thinking. I spoke about AI recently, and it made me think about. I don't know if going back in the 50s, the Isaac Asimov book called The Profession. Has anyone ever read that? It's very, very relevant today. Someone's read that. Was it George, the character? Do you remember? It's George. So George is the book. It's a short novella, and it's a short story of this boy George who is at school, and in this time, this sort of futuristic world, by year, I think when they turn 12 or something, they all have to have decided what's going to get programmed into their brain to be the profession that what they're going to be when they grow up. So we're in this world of just plug and learn, and that's how it goes.
Isn't that the Matrix?
Well, the Matrix is like that, but I would go back to, Asimov's way more vintage than the Matrix. But the elements of that, and the idea is that he starts to get excited about the meeting that he's going to have where he says what he wants to be, and he starts to learn about the different careers and starts to self-teach himself about what would a doctor do or what would an engineer do. And so he rolls up to the meeting where he's supposed to get his brain programmed to be, fireman or whatever else he wants to be. And he starts asking questions about I've been thinking about this. I'm a little bit undecided, so I'd like to ask you some questions before I make a decision. And then he just gets taken to the back room. And he's not the one he's like the chosen one that doesn't get programmed, and he's got to go back to school the old way and learn it fundamentally how to be whatever it was he chose. And that's how we have to keep that knowledge and innovation, because otherwise we don't innovate and change and grow. So he was most disappointed, and that's what the book is. I hope I've sort of spoken to the content of it. But I think the question for the panel is that was clear back then, but do we still need little, George to learn by the ropes fundamentally, or is AI going to, create that new content even when it's programmed to start with?
I mean, just having stuff programmed to my head sounds kind of nice at the same time. You don't have to spend ages, but I'm also curious to see if you actually read the book or if you just put into ChatGPT and then got the summary of that. No, but coming back to your question, I think it is a really interesting thing to come back to, which is understanding those fundamentals. And people are asking me now, developers, junior developers, should we actually be teaching them how to develop code, or should we just be throwing them straight into AI and then off they go? And I was like, well, I mean, AI is still relatively new, right? But also, who knows what's coming next? If you don't understand the fundamentals, how are you going to know what to do next? So I gave a talk at a women coders group recently on Git and version control. And I just start the talk talking about why it's actually important in the first place to even use version control and what it is and what it means before going into here's how we do git add and here we do this. And a couple of them came up to afterwards, and one of them was actually a teacher. She said, it all clicked for me. I need to teach my students about the fundamentals of this and why why we need to use Git in the first place, in this instance Git, and why we need to do this, and then how important it is down the track that we then put those things into implementation. She said it all just clicked, because when we started getting to the Git add and Git status and all that, she's like, it makes so much sense now. So I think if we don't understand those core fundamentals, we lose the link, and we lose the why are we even doing this for in the first place. I think that's a lot of problem children at school. Those kids that just don't look like they want to be there, they don't want to do stuff, and then you find out they're actually the really smart ones that learnt all the stuff, and they're now like sitting there distracting everyone else because they've got nothing else to do. Like, we need to be teaching those people and like actually giving people the real understanding. It's like trying to be a farmer. You can't go out and be a farmer and try and grow cattle and raise cattle. I am from a farm. I've come city-ized, but you can't grow crops and raise cattle without understanding what it actually means to do those things and going back to those basics. Sure, use the tractors and use all the fancy technology we have these days to track weather and AI applications now that can help farmers understand when the best time to sow the crop actually is to get the best yield out of it. Like, that's all there. But if they didn't understand how to grow the thing in the first place, they're not going to get very far, are they? So I think it's really important. So I don't know about...
How did we get back onto AI? I thought we pivoted past it.
Taking over the...
We're post AI.
Everything's AI now, right? You can't...
Is it going to have...
Is AI the new blockchain?
I was going to say, that's
What
exactly...
was that,
Is it going to start to stink like that soon? Like, it feels like
Is it going to start what?
stinking.
Just
Like,
a
if someone
pile
was
of
to start
mess.
talking about blockchain right now, it's a bit like...
Oh,
a bit
crypto?
fucking cringe. Yeah.
I was like, what were the buzzwords from like 3 years ago for VCs? Like crypto, blockchain. 5 years ago, it was like the cloud.
We're in the it's the trough
Vibe
of
coding.
disillusionment.
That's it.
I
the
love that phrase. That's a
trough of
tech
disillusion.
adoption curve, and the technology peaks, which it probably has for AI. Or
Yeah, I think you're right.
We're in this trough of disillusionment, and it's going to
about
land.
everything else.
It'll land somewhere,
Well, I reckon
and then
when-
the world will just go, oh yeah, and we'll kind of move on.
I think once that technology is embedded in something that can like run faster than you, that's where it gets really interesting. And you're just like, we still cool?
Or there's
like
some social benefit, maybe, it makes the world a better place. That could
like
be good.
5 years ago, Ready Player One came out, and everyone was asking me to be on panels about AR and VR and the metaverse and where it's going, and no one seems to care about that stuff anymore. It's all about this cool new AI thing that I think the difference is, if we're going to come back to like, those types of technologies, blockchain, crypto, the metaverse, VR, is AI is so accessible. Like, who doesn't have a phone in this room, right? Like, anyone can pull out their phone right now and go to ChatGPT or use Grok or use Claude or use anything, and we all have access to this new thing. Whereas something like even AR or VR, we have to have something else. And, to do blockchain, we kind of have to be into that area. But if we're going to do anything on the development side, we have to have some pretty decent GPUs to run some crypto mining or whatever we're going to do. Like, we need stuff, whereas now we don't with AI.
I have a 13-week-old baby girl named Eve, and
How did you get away for the night?
Sweetest thing. Holly is extraordinary. She's a farmer.
Holly,
She's a farmer as well.
So cute.
And I want her to experience zero technology ever. That's where I'm at right now.
I don't know about the ever, but I definitely agree with the zero technology for a chunk of time.
You're looking at like this pure...
You haven't been corrupted yet by the technology and the AIs.
I've got like a teenage kid, 21-year-old, 18-year-old, and a 16-year-old who I can't remember the name. What's the really great Netflix series? What's the No, I remember their names, but what's the Netflix?
Sentiment or
the Netflix series?
Adolescence.
Oh, that one.
Oh my God! I don't know if you've watched it. You should watch it for many reasons.
I watched it.
Watch it for
good?
just the cinema approach. Like, this one cut movie idea is amazing, but that will terrify every parent who has a child with
that's
technology.
That one that's about like the anxiety aspect of
this,
all of that stuff.
And I remember the scene is very confronting at the end, and I really encourage you all to watch it. And I just raced into my 18-year-old bedroom, whose name is Marcus, and he's playing online, and I'm like, get offline. And have you murdered anyone lately? Like,
Have
and
you
he's
what?
just like, and my older boy's just going, oh my God, Mum, like, that is not how you respond. And then there's this whole thing
Just
online
start using
about
that. Have you touched grass yet?
how are parents coping with their response to this terrifyingly true.
I actually don't know. Like, I got lots of my friends of my age, their parents, and like, how are you, like, how? Parents in the room?
Move to the
Don't ruin it. No, they said there's plenty.
Binge watch it this weekend and
I think it's more definitely focused to the parents, because I had the conversation with my kids and they were like, "Yeah, that's so inaccurate."
Okay, well we got one.
Not how we would.
We got 1 minute left then. As somebody who's not a parent, and it seems
Are you
like
the
everyone on the
compare
panel.
here?
No, so I'm taking over. I really want to know, what is your thoughts on actually giving your children technology? Seems like they're all at different stages, and are you encouraging them to embrace AI or whatever else comes along? And I'm going to turn my microphone off. So
yes is my answer, yes. But, who knows if that's the right approach. But
I got 2 teenage girls and they just tell me what to do. I'm sorry.
I can add a data point to that. Yeah.
yeah, you're looking at your 13-week-old.
You said you'd turn that off.
Oh no, I turned it back on. But I'm prompting now. I'm doing prompt engineering. You're looking at your 13-week-old and you're extrapolating forward.
Yeah.
Technology or none?
All that matters right now is that she locks in on people. Yeah, and I think something that's really interesting, and I appreciate that it's my fucking broken record theme, and I was thinking about it when you were talking about the purpose of the university and what's not going to change. Like, we depend on each other. Like, we fucking need each other. And crises are coming. Like, that's just fucking life, and it's nothing to be dramatic about. And when that crisis comes, you will need people for that. And I think it's really interesting that something we don't talk about the roles that universities play, like, they bring people together. Like, a huge function of a university is you find your soulmate there, like, in that educational realm. Like, and yeah, you sharpen your tools and do whatever and learn your thing and get a job and get a mortgage and all that stuff. But, like, fundamentally, the bit that will never go away is people will go to these places and we will have a renaissance of understanding the importance of a place that exists to serve a purpose in a community. And my best mate's an architect, so architect engineer, always fucking arguing. And like, the architectural interpretation of a place is something I just think it's fucking awesome. And
that's awesome. I love that, because it comes back to the family and using technology. Like, what's the purpose of your family and you as a parent? And if I think of my kids, it's about us being connected and support each other and be present and share things and go on a wonderful journey. And whether technology is part of it or not is immaterial. Like, if we keep coming back to that purpose, it's not about whether they can use tech or not. It's about, is the tech achieving that purpose that we have as a family? And if it is, fantastic. And
if it's not, get rid of it.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
We have, yeah. I mean, we are a tech family and we use it in every way, but it connects us in wonderful ways as well.
Yeah. I mean, my husband's messaging me right now saying, am I okay? Is everything all right? Like, yeah, I think you're right. Like, is it an enabler or is it an inhibitor?
Yeah, and that might change daily, with different children. Like, that is the bit that come back to that purpose. And if it's achieving your purpose, bring it on.
yeah.
I think we should probably pass back to you. Sorry, we left you out.
I didn't want to interrupt. It's just it's
Getting so deep.
It's such a vibe. It's great.
Vibe panel. That's going to be the new thing for next latency. Oh, we're going to have vibe paneling next year.
That's pretty much how we usually do it. But no, it was a great discussion. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Everybody put your hands together for the panel. We've got a couple of things to do after that.
And thank you, Ross, for hosting us. I'm sorry we all kind of took over the conversation, but thank you for putting together the questions as well. It was great. And thanks everyone for being an awesome audience.